This is Cyberbullying, a guide for teachers with statistics, signs, and solutions. Some of the statistics that we can find online from surveys and whatnot are that mean comments make up 22.5% of cyberbullying. Screenshotting and sharing photos makes up 35%, and that reason that the cyberbullying is occurring 61% of the time is because of their appearance. That's what the attacker is basically using, their appearance. Harassment takes place on Facebook 56% of the time, which I feel like is a little bit outdated, just because of, I know a lot of my students don't use Facebook. They use Snapchat and TikTok and stuff, but maybe 7 out of 10 students experience cyberbullying before the age of 18. Some more statistics include individuals with a history of negative or violent home lives are more susceptible to bullying. Students that emotionally are more susceptible to feelings of hate, anger, envy, and insecurity, and peer pressure are at a higher risk of both being targeted and being the bully. Depression and suicide are some of the potential side effects of cyberbullying. Some more statistics include that in March 2010, California's second appellate district concluded that online threats were not free speech and therefore could be eligible for a civil lawsuit. Cyberbullying victims are nearly twice as likely to attempt suicide compared to non-targeted students, and cyberbullying clearly heightens instability and hopelessness in adolescents' minds. Girls typically target other girls with labels that are offensive. This is just a survey, statistics from a survey sample of 3,000 public schools across the U.S. and the District of Columbia. So, for example, the bullying occurs daily or weekly was one of the options on the survey, and in 2010, 7.9% of schools agreed with that, but in 2016, 12% did, so that went up. The monthly bullying went from 9.4 to 14.9. The schools that said we occasionally have bullying went from 45 to 54%. And the schools that say we never have bullying went down tremendously from 37.7% to 19.1%. Some signs of cyberbullying include exclusion, which is just leaving people out of groups, harassment, which would be sustained and intentional, outing, which is public humiliation, cyberstalking, which is constant pushy messages online, fraping, which is impersonating others, fake profiles, which means making fake profiles to stay anonymous, dissing, which is posting damaging information, trickery, which is gaining trust before turning on the victim, trolling, which is provoking response by using insults, and then lastly, catfishing, which is stealing somebody's online identity to create a fake persona. Some signs. So basically, what could happen if actions are not taken? So, for example, a student in New York was harassed for years based on his race. The student's teachers noticed, or maybe the student went to the teachers, but the school tried to take steps to discipline the student, but the behaviors persisted. The student then sued the school and won $1 million because the school was deliberately indifferent, basically meaning they didn't do enough. The moral of this story is that it is your responsibility as an educator to take victimization seriously and do everything in your power to stop it. Disciplining the bully is not enough. That's not the way to stop the bully. You just have to make sure that victim is safe before you move on. So some solutions include relationships with your students, and those can go a long way in terms of their comfortability in sharing what is going on with their lives. Some good strategies include So in lowering the effects and probability of your child being bullied online, include monitor their time online and what they use that time for. Take time to talk to your students individually about what is going on in their personal lives. Encourage your students to speak up when they are in need of help, and that just comes back to relationships. Some other solutions include let your students know that they may report anything to you. Gather evidence from students that you can use if legal action is taken. So if a student has screenshots, gather that evidence. Create create relationships with your students again so that they know they can trust you. Try to intervene on the little attacks because they may have greater underlying issues. And make sure that every student knows that they're cared for and an important part of the class. More solutions include, other options for teachers and parents as well would be to report threats of harm or sexual messages to the police. So we've got to have that option too, or the officer at your school. Typically, those can be prosecuted. Help your child or student understand that they are not the bad guy in the situation. I think that's typically what holds kids back from speaking up. They think that they're the problem, but you got to let them know that they're not. In the Sioux Falls School District, so our district that we work in, they shall operate a technology protection measure that blocks or filters internet access, and then they should restrict access to inappropriate materials, monitor the online activities of minors, and then educate minors about the appropriate online behavior, including interacting with other individuals on social networking websites and in chat rooms, and cyberbullying awareness, prevention, and response. These are the references that I used for this project.